Brownie points, Jared Burleson in the office, 9:34 at night. Very impressive.
I was across the street.
There you go. All right.
Alex, let's just start off with Iggy. How important? I know we had talked about what do you prioritize, but getting the closer was big. How significant is this as you move forward with your off season?
Yeah, very. We talked about this at the trade deadline last year. We looked at the market for closers, and obviously, there's the options trade and so on. And Um, we felt like we were going to want him back. We knew that that was going to be a process to work through. But again, he had a rough beginning of the year, but all the underlying stuff was very good. So, we always had intentions to bring him back. We didn't know when it would get done, how long it would take. I think staying with the same team makes it easier for that to happen. Sometimes when you cut the cord and people move on to other places, there's hard feelings, things like that, all that kind of stuff. So we definitely felt like our best opportunity to bring him back, knowing we had every intention to be competitive again and get back to the postseason in 26, was to have him on this roster and continue to watch him and continue to see him throwing the ball well. So it's important. You don't know the timing of things you're going to get done. We needed to address closer one way or the other. And who better than someone that we know? We know he fits in the clubhouse. We know the health. We know the makeup. We know the ability. He's such a great fit for us. And look, he wanted to be here. I mean, I won't speak for him, but I think, his goal and his first choice was to be back in Atlanta. So we're glad we're able to get it done. And, he's just a great fit for us.
You're muted, Dave.
$1.
Sorry about that. With Dubon, he's an upgrade over
Hold
Nick.
on a second. You're in Atlanta. You're wearing a 49ers cap?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you could read that.
Eh, show a little loyalty. No
Forgot I
Cardinals
had it
problems.
on.
You're allowed to be a fan.
I forgot I had it on.
There you go.
Does he give you some coverage at shortstop in case you can't re-sign Kim or get another guy, or
I
how does
think, look, the appeal with Dubon is he can play everywhere, right? He's a Swiss Army. He's a true Swiss Army knife. He can play everywhere. He protects you at a lot of spots, and he's a good defender at almost every spot. So high energy guy, great teammate, has speed, bat the ball, great contact. So, I told him, I said, I don't know what your role is going to be yet. Walt talked to him as well. But the fact that we have the flexibility to do all kinds of things with him. So he can play all over the infield, play all three outfield spots. So we'll just see how the rest of the offseason goes. But we know that in light of the injuries we've had and so on, he hits left-handers well. There's just a lot of fits from just a player. There's a lot of places to put him in and where he can impact us. So we feel comfortable with him at shortstop. I asked him tonight, how comfortable are you there? And our underlying data on him at shortstop is good and strong, but I think he's good at second, good at third, good in the corners, could play center field. We like the contact and the speed as well. So just a good piece. You're going to need that over the course of the year. We've had a bunch of injuries the last few years, and the fact that he does it and he's a phenomenal teammate, just a great fit for us.
Is it best to just say that his role will be determined on who else, how the rest of the shortstop market
Yeah. Well, I
develops?
would say shortstop. I would just say his role be determined on what else we do this winter. So, and also even in spring, I told him the same thing. I said, I have no idea what the roster is going to look like come spring training. I have no idea what it'll look like in spring training or coming out of spring or during the season. But the fact that he has the ability to literally play every position. The only one I guess I don't know of is catch, but and I bet you if he wanted to, he could probably do that as well. So knowing he has the flexibility and the athleticism and the ability to do all that stuff, it just gives us so many options this winter. So we'll see, but he's going to get in there. I mean, Walt's going to get him in there regardless of what we do, just because he fits in all kinds of places. And again, just even specifically the ability to hit left-handers as well. So he just does a lot of things from the run tool to the contact to the lefties to playing good defense at a lot of positions. It's a really, to me, it's a winning player and it's a nice piece to have on a contending club.
Hey Alex, Miguel from Mayor here. Thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to ask you about Mauricio Dubon. He brings postseason experience to the club as well. how much well, and also the opportunity to play multiple positions, how much value does that to a specific profile brings to the current constructions of the clubhouse? And also, he's from Honduras. The Latino communities keeps growing up in Atlanta. Do you see that as well as an opportunity or a potential opportunity for the Latino market in Atlanta?
Yeah, so first thing is your background screen's got to change to Truist Park. We got to get it changed there and get the Atlanta Park there behind you. But in terms of what you said about Dubon, yeah, he's a fit for all those things you talked about. He's good in the clubhouse, can play everywhere. I talked to him tonight. He's in Honduras right now. He told me there's a ton of Braves fans there. So I feel like that's from John Sherholtz and Bobby Cox and the tradition of the Braves. They've already established a fan base with the work that they've done and the former Braves players to make the Braves a really popular team. I didn't realize that. So he told me that he's excited, that there's a ton of Braves fans in Honduras. And I told him he's going to be big man on campus now in Honduras if there's that many Braves fans. So he's very excited to be here. And he lives in Miami as well, but he spends a lot of time in Honduras. So I think this is a great fit for him. And just like you said, the fact that he could play positions, the fact that he's a great teammate and great in the clubhouse, it's a great fit. And guys like you will now have Truist Park in your background when you do Zooms. It's even better.
Yeah. My defense, you're right. Truist Park, best park
Awesome.
in the
There
story
you go.
in the history.
That's
I just
right.
put baseball field on Google, and that's what I have.
I got you. Okay.
My
Well, I'm
wall
with
is
you. I'm,
awful.
I'm just having fun. That's a great park too. I worked there for a few years. I'm just having fun.
Busting on
Thank you very
hats,
much. Thank you.
backgrounds,
Look, we got
everything.
everyone from California. We got Dave O'Brien wearing San Francisco 49ers. We got our gentleman from Honduras with Dodger Stadium. You guys are on the wrong Zoom.
Well, Alex, I'm wearing a Braves
At
shirt,
least,
so I
there you go. At
apologize.
least
I'm
Bo's
back on
got.
the
Oh,
right
you got
team.
Braves. Yeah, you got Braves shirt. Bo's got a Waffle House in Atlanta institution. So go ahead.
Is there an advantage for you guys to sort of jump out in the front of this free agent market before winter meetings?
Look, I don't, people always say, do you react to what other teams are doing, this and that? I think you guys have heard me say this. Our philosophy, if we can, you can't force it, is we'd rather lead than follow. Lead meaning do the things we want to get done and try to get them done. And sometimes that's January or February or March. But if we can get things done early, it just sets up your off season. It eliminates some things and it gives you a clear path, right? So now if deal isn't there, you can't force a deal at the same time. So, um, you don't, if you could draw it up, you do things in a certain order and so on. It just doesn't work that way, right? Some players need more time. Some players are ready to sign. Some teams are ready to make trades. Some teams need more time to do that. So, we made the Chris Sale trade on New Year's Eve. We've been talking about him for 2 years. So it would have been nice to do that in November. It just didn't materialize, right? So this is, once a deal is close or within range, we'll try to get it done. And if we can get it done early, there's obviously tons of advantages because it gives us clarity for the remaining moves.
Hey, Alex, with respect to the bullpen, how much clarity does it give you to know the guy that you're bringing back that you're going to entrust to be the closer because you've made some decisions already with some options? And obviously, there are a lot of pieces to put together. I remember you said in spring training a couple of years ago, you never wanted to try to rebuild a bullpen in season. So having the winter to really find and identify some pieces and build that depth, having Iggy there, was that kind of the first big step that you wanted to have or just kind of the way it fell?
Yeah, no, I think we weren't looking to do that in that order, but we knew we needed to address closer. He was prepared to sign on a 1 year deal. And, he was a priority for us. We wanted to get him signed back. That was, like as I mentioned, it's a conversation we had as a front office in July. We looked ahead. I think I mentioned at the trade deadline, our offseason started at that time. So that was one of the discussions we had of, do we want to bring this guy back? What are the alternatives and so on? And we knew him well. We thought he'd had a rough start, but all the underlying indicators were good. And we wanted to keep him for the durability aspect. He's a phenomenal teammate. He's a great fit. We just know him so well. So, but look, I think having the anchor in the bullpen, it just sets things up. It helps the manager. Again, I'm sure Walt would agree with that. I don't want to speak for him, but having set up and knowing that your ninth inning is settled, and then you can build around that, behind that, and so on. And obviously, we've got Dylan Lee, who's back, and a lot of other guys. But we still have other work to do. I think I mentioned this at the GM meetings. We need a lot of relievers. So Our plan is not to just get one reliever and be done. I mean, we're going to need to do more. How that's going to present itself, what, when, where, I don't know yet. But closer is definitely the anchor, and you definitely want to get that solved.
Alex, Alejandro Villegas here from Sports Venezuela. Question for you: were you looking for this type of player, like this profile, because of a hole that you thought you had in the roster and construction, or was it more of an opportunity that just came up and you took it?
Yeah, I think, look, ideally, you'd love to have someone that can play, when you have center field and shortstop, that's hard to find guys that can play both positions like that, right? Those are two premium spots. Every team needs a backup center fielder. Every team needs a starting shortstop or a backup shortstop. Those are just harder positions to find. So when one player can fill both, that has value. So were we looking for that? I mean, I guess you'd always like to have that, right? Anytime you'd always like to have that. So once we got word that there was a world that we could acquire him, start doing the work on the background, the makeup. I mean, we've probably touched base with the Astros, various forums. Look, a little bit last summer, we checked in a little bit, and then early in the off season, and today it came together. So, but yeah, he's just a really good fit, and he was a good fit for all the reasons, his ability on the field, but also what he brings to the team and the clubhouse and his experiences.
Thank you.
Alex, when you get a versatile guy like this, does that continue to keep your options open for DH as well? Because if you've got a versatile guy who can play many different positions, you might not have to have that guy who is that Ozuna type, as you said last week, where you might still go after one of those guys, a permanent DH or however you want to say it. But having a versatile guy like Dubon, does that allow you to stay open to the possibility of maybe not filling that DH spot with somebody who's going to play there every day?
Right. So yeah, it leaves our options open because, like you said, he can fit in anywhere. And look, you'd like to believe everyone's going to play 162. It's other than Matt Olson, you can't count on anyone doing that. And that's not a knock. It's more of a credit to Matt Olson, whatever, 700 or 800 games in a row. So, and the fact that he protects us, so it just gives us the optionality is through the roof. But we'll just see, and it doesn't close any doors for us, which I think is probably the most important thing. It allows us to, we like him, we like the bat to ball, we like the energy he brings. But you just know you're protected. The fact that you're protected at premium positions, right? You're protected in center, you're protected at short. You've got all these other areas that he can play as well. And he's got some speed, and he's got contact skills. It's a nice, and he's a good teammate, good energy in the clubhouse and all that stuff. So it just made sense for us to get this deal done today. Like I said, we had talked about him during the summer. The Astros weren't in a position to move him. But we did spend time with him last summer. Beginning of the offseason, had some conversations. There wasn't anything there. And then finally today it came together.
Would you say when you go back to that trade deadline, and I don't know, we kept asking you why didn't you move
Right.
Iglesias? Is it safe to say that this was in the back of your mind? And you kind of said it, you keep a guy on a roster, it's easier. This was kind of your thought. Hey, this is
100%. I just couldn't tell you the guys that at the time. Now, that being said, the offers that we got at the time were just, Iggy's numbers at the time were okay, right? They had started off slow and they really rebounded in August and September, but his numbers didn't. So, again, you're still going to be open-minded. You're going to listen to what people have to say, but there was nothing even close. They were, again, that's not a disrespect to Iggy, but the deals were more salary dump deals, so it was just giving the guy away and saving salary. So, you know, if the net return is just get a non-prospect or a guy that we don't think is going to impact us, and then also what we felt would have significantly impacted our ability to sign him back. I've seen that happen. It doesn't mean you couldn't, but it's going to make it significantly more challenging. Um, then it just was a no-brainer, but we weren't going to telegraph and indicate to anybody that, hey, we want to try to sign this guy back and so on. I mean, we had conversations, but we needed to get to the off season. It took time, and we're just grateful that it got done.
Alex, I don't know if surprised is a word, but are you surprised it was only a 1-year deal?
No, I think like anything else.
and it got done quickly enough with him that he almost seems like
Yeah, I guess that's this. I don't want to speak for him. You know, I think that's what we've been talking about the entire time. So, that was where this was going to go, and it was just a matter of finding that spot that made sense for both sides. So, I guess it's like when you're involved in it every day and you're talking and you're staying. So it's hard to say you're surprised by anything, right? It's not. It's someone that we've had. We talked about internally in July. We had discussions during the season, before the season ended with him. And we made it clear we wanted him to stay. He made it clear we were his first choice. And but also, you have to, yeah, you earn the right to be a free agent and see what his value is going to be and so on. But again, I've said this before. Atlanta's a great place to play. Players like staying here. They like being here. The fan base is great. I hate to give you guys too much credit. The media is great to these guys. It's a good place to play. We've had good attendance, good ball club. I think our support staff does a really good job. And look, well before my time, this organization's been very well thought of and rightfully so. So I think a lot of the work gets done on guys wanting to be here and play. I think it's a good place to play. So, um, you know, when both sides want it to happen, it doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but you have a better chance to find common ground and to get it done.
Alex, two things about Iglesias. One, do you have a sense of what the level of interest was in him? And also, was Walt being the manager at all a factor? Did that come up in conversations?
No, I think we didn't have to sell the organization or Walt or the staff. I mean, he knows everybody, right? He's known Snit, he's known Walt, he's known the front office, he's known the clubhouse staff, the travel staff, the training staff. So, I mean, his desire to be back was already, that was clear. So, that's not to take anything away from everybody, but he already had those answers. That wasn't a discussion. There's nothing I need to tell him, right? He lived through it for parts of 4 seasons. So, um, in terms of the interest from other clubs, look, you read stuff, you hear stuff. Ultimately, look, he's a really good reliever. He's a really good reliever. He's a really good teammate, and of course, there's going to be interest in a guy like that. And it's going to be competitive in order to get him and to sign him. So we're grateful that he wanted to be here. He clearly wanted to be here. So um, that obviously, if you're competing with someone you don't know, you don't have, and they haven't been here, they don't know you, all that kind of stuff. There's always advantages to someone having been in your clubhouse before, knowing your support staff. And look, I'm sure all 29 other clubs would tell you the same thing. We think we have good things to talk about. We feel good about the people we have here. We feel good about the ballpark, the business side, the baseball side, the fan base. Again, I'm not, and I was kidding about it, but I do think even from a media environment, I think you guys are good to the players. I've heard that before. Just you guys are respectful, and I like if you're gonna complain about anything in Atlanta, if you wanted to find one little thing, maybe it's the occasional rain delay. That's probably it. Otherwise, I mean, once we added we added AC, and there's nothing to complain about. You have everything you want. So obviously, you want a winning team in a competitive club. So it's a great environment, and I do think people that have been here, I do believe that will help to break ties.
Alex, what did today do for your to-do list? I mean, we went into the offseason, you're saying starting pitching, bullpen, shortstop. Do you kind of look at it still that to-do list looks similar, or what did today do for that?
Yeah, look, I think if we could still, if we could still do something at shortstop, we're very open there. Starter, if we could still do things at starter, we're still very open there. Bullpen, we're still very, very open there. I mean, we're going to need to do something for sure in the bullpen. So, um, look, we'd like to add a starter. We do have, our guys that were hurt last year feel great and look like they're going to be fine. And we could roll out, health permitting, really good on paper 5-man rotation today. Right now Holmes looks good. Waldrop I thought threw great at the end of the year. Schwallenbach and Lopez feel great. Strider I think is going to be much better. Normal offseason for him and Sale. I mean, Bryce Elder threw the ball really well towards the end of the year as well. We're pretty deep. when it comes to that. That doesn't mean that we don't want to insulate ourselves and have as much depth as we can and try to find someone that can help. So, we want to make sure we're in that position. But and then obviously bullpen, we need bodies. There's no doubt. We're going to need to do something there. So, and look at short. We'd like to do something, but um, we do like Dubon. We think Bruhan's got some upside. I think Brett Wisely's, solid players out of options. Those guys will come in and compete for jobs in camp, but we're still in that market. We're still very open to it.
Alex, how is Holmes right now and Ronaldo Lopez? How are those
I mean,
two?
right now we'll see in camp, but Ronaldo was throwing Holmes. I mean, again, it's still early, but I mean, he's thrown, been up, down, velocity's great. I mean, look, we'll find out when he gets into competitive games in spring, but it could not have gone better. So right now, everything is pointing in a very optimistic way that he's going to get through this. Obviously, we're a long ways off of spring training games, all that kind of stuff, but we're really encouraged. Really, really encouraged. So I couldn't have told you that when he first went down, right? We didn't know. Did he need to get surgery? Did he not? And these tests that he's been through now, up downs, live BPs, all this kind of stuff, the velocity's back, and he feels unbelievable. He's not the first person to go through something like this. There's certainly examples. I think Dave, you may have written a piece about that with guys like Nola and so on. So I think he had his issue in 2016 or something. He's still going. So
Mhm.
right now, as we sit here on November the 19th, everything is gone very, very well. So we'll see once he gets into spring and March and gets stretched out and all that kind of stuff. But so far, we're really, really encouraged.
And Joe Jimenez?
Joe and O got a knee cleanup, and we're gonna know more as we get later in the winter here. Um, so I don't have anything yet. I was actually talking to our staff today, and it's just too early to tell in terms of a timeline, right? So we're still pretty far from spring training, but I think by the time we get to end of December, another month from now, January, we'll have a much better sense of, okay, is he starting spring training on time? How is he doing? How's he feeling? All that kind of stuff. So. Um, we'll know more in about a month or two.
Alex, is there any conversation that's being had now? And I don't know how many healthy bodies you'll have, certainly in February, March to opening day. But the six-man rotation is always something that sort of gets thrown around. Nobody's really done it for the entirety of a season. It Can I ask what the conversation might be, at
Yeah,
least
yep.
as we sit here today?
I've thought about it probably every year, last 3, 4, 5 years. And the issue you have is it's just so hard to pull it off with the limits on 13 arms, right? 8-man bullpen. You're going to go short in the bullpen, right? You're going to have to go 7-man bullpen. And if you can pull it off where you're going to get 6 starters that give you at least 5, 6, and so on. The problem with it is you get a 2 inning start, a 1 inning start, 2 1/3, and you're playing 18 in a row, 20 in a row, whatever it is. You're cooked at that point, right? So I do think there's real value to it. And you guys saw it in 2024 when we led all of MLB in ERA. We used the off days, we moved guys back, we really protected guys, and it worked well for us. It was challenging because we were shuttling guys in and out and putting spot starters in. And from a roster gymnastics standpoint, that's what we call it. It was tough. You could only option guys 5 times a year. Once you option them, they're down for 2 weeks. You have to have enough, but you don't want to throw a game away. So someone you call up to make that start to build in that quote 6-man, and if you don't have an off day, you still don't want to feel like you're throwing the game away. And they're not going. If they come up and you think they're only going to go 2 innings, you've torched your bullpen, right? And then you have to option them, and you're covered. So it's very challenging with the limits of the roster. If there were no limits and it's a straight 26-man, I think very doable because you could just go short from a position player standpoint, especially with we have a lot of guys that play every day. So I'd love to be able to do it, and I just don't know how realistic it is to be able to do it for over the course of a season. And that's why you've seen us. The alternative is to try to put in spot starters, and that's been our best attempt to do it and still be able to maintain a roster and all that kind of stuff.
Any other questions for Alex on tonight's moves?
You had another one, Brian Rawlinson. Could you
Yeah,
share
just
your
someone
thoughts?
that he was DFA'd. A lot of these deals you normally would claim guys on waivers and so on. He has options. Look, the numbers at the big league level, obviously they weren't good. I'm stating the obvious there. The numbers in the minor leagues, in a tough league, in the Pacific Coast League, were pretty good. They're swing and miss. Former top pick. Again, you have guys, just for the reasons we talked about, guys with options. Look, we had moments last year when you're limited to 5, where we would have optioned someone down 4 times, and now you're saying, well, if we call this guy up again, we've only got one option left, and they're an out-of-option player. So you run out of option. Sometimes you have a double header, or you used your long guy and he's down for 3 days, and you need protection if your starter goes short or he gets hit in the ankle in the first inning. So having guys with options that have some upside and some stuff, I think you take a shot at those guys, especially in a cash considerations deal. So you can wait till they go on outright waivers and see if you get the claim, or you can jump the line and do a cash deal if a team's willing to do that and ensure you get the player. So we're aggressive with that. You do 100 of these, you get one. You get one Dylan Lee out of these deals. It's a no-brainer, right? Dylan Lee was released out of minor league spring training from the Marlins at the end of camp, and obviously he's been a really successful reliever for us and a great success story. And there's plenty of examples across the board of guys that have jumped around and bounced around. So you call it churn and so on. It's worth it. Again, you can have so many of these, and you hit on one guy, it pays for itself a lot of times over.
All righty.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex, for the
Hey
time
guys,
tonight.
see ya. Good night.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep.